All right, we're talking deconstruction. Relax, it's going to be fun. Like and subscribe, please and thank you. So, deconstruction, it's one of those words that so many people are using and using it in so many different ways. It's kind of hard to even know what it means anymore. So why don't we start with what am I talking about when I'm talking about deconstruction? In as few words as possible, deconstruction to me is just asking questions. That's it. Just asking questions. Now, the nature of these questions tends to be very deep, very heavy, very theological, very important. Things like, why do I believe what I believe? Does that make sense to me? Do I still believe that? Do I need to update that particular belief? And to me, that's really all it is. That's what deconstruction is. It's asking questions. It's being willing to ask difficult questions, not being willing to accept simple answers, and assessing our individual beliefs to see if they still work for us. And that's it. Not so bad. And hopefully that kind of puts you at ease already, because I know that it's a very common understanding in a lot of Christian circles that deconstruction is synonymous with walking away. I'm done. I don't believe any of this. I don't want to be in your club anymore. I'm out. And that's not deconstruction. That's destruction. And I understand the confusion that destruction and deconstruction, they kind of sound alike, and honestly they're similar in their process, and maybe we could have done a little bit of rebranding with that, but I actually kind of still like the word deconstruction because I think it fits for what we're doing. Unlike destruction, which is just taking something apart and destroying it and walking away, deconstruction is taking something apart and looking at its individual pieces. And that's what we're doing with deconstruction. We're taking apart a whole belief, a whole faith, and looking at the individual pieces to see if those still make sense to us, asking those questions about those individual beliefs. You can think of it kind of like deconstructed food, which I think is about as dumb as it gets. Not that that matters, but also, why wouldn't you just put the cheeseburger together? Why would you put it, what are we doing here? Anyway, when we deconstruct food, we're taking each individual part and taking a look at that to make sure it fits with the whole. And if one part doesn't work anymore, we need to assess that. And that's deconstruction to me. It's just asking the questions. That's all. Just asking questions. But even that, I understand, can be somewhat frightening for a lot of people, because to create another analogy, it sometimes feels like the one deconstructing is just maybe walking around a house, walking around a structure of some kind, and we're just taking it apart. We're just tearing it apart for no reason, and we're like walking through a house, tearing down drywall, punching holes in walls, pulling out studs, ripping up wires, just tearing out, and the concern is that we might just pull a load-bearing stud, and the whole thing will come crumbling down, and that would not be good. But that's not what we're doing. That's not what deconstruction is. First of all, in this metaphor, I'm in my house. Just to clarify, I'm not walking into someone else's house. I'm not walking into your house. I'm not pulling the studs out of your walls. I'm not punching holes in your drywall. I'm not ripping out your wires. I'm not making a mess in your house. I'm looking at my house. I'm asking questions for me. And it's not that I'm walking through my house and seeing, wow, this is all really great. I think I'll ruin this. It's more like me noticing that this isn't level, or I'm noticing mold here, or I'm noticing that there is already kind of a hole in this drywall. I'm noticing a small crack in the foundation. And it's not me walking around with a sledgehammer and just destroying things. It's more like me noticing that there are problems and saying, I'm going to replace this stud. It has rot. I'm going to replace it with something strong. So it's not me walking around and looking at a well-built structure and just smashing it and tearing it down and deconstructing and destroying it. It's more like me noticing the house I built wasn't built well in the first place. That some of these things don't work for me anymore. This wasn't level, and as time has gone, it started to tip more and more. To quote the man, the whole thing is built on sand. And it is coming down. And what I'm doing is trying to preserve it. I'm trying to fix it. I'm looking at beliefs that don't work for me anymore. I don't believe them. I don't find them compelling. And I need to replace them with new ones. That's deconstruction. It's not me looking at a well-built structure and saying, kill it, destroy it for no reason. It's me noticing it doesn't work for me anymore. And I think there is this kind of connotation that those of us who are deconstructing are just like these rebellious teenagers, and we're just raging against the machine for no reason except just wild anarchy. And that's not what's happening here. When someone is deconstructing, it's not that we're trying to stand up and say, I'm against this. It's that we're saying, no, this is important to me. My faith matters to me. If I'm going to base my entire life off of this, then it has to be real. This has to be mine. This has to make sense to me. This can't be something someone told me and I've memorized. I have questions. And I have to ask these questions because this is important to me. Because I take this very seriously. And so it's not this raging and destroying and tearing down. It's taking apart and looking at it and analyzing it and saying, this is important to me. And that's I think, the real heart of deconstruction. It's just questions. It's just questions. But I know that can be scary. That can be scary for a lot of people. On either side of it, it can be scary for the person deconstructing and certainly for the friend of the person who is deconstructing. And obviously, the biggest fear is that these questions can lead to a bad place. That the person deconstructing is going to ask the wrong question and end up in a bad place. That these questions are the road signs that are lining the wide path that leads to destruction. But if we're asking questions because our faith is important to us, that doesn't lead to destruction. That leads to a good place. That isn't us driving away from God. That is us driving toward a faith that is ours, that is real, that is important to us, that matters enough to ask the difficult questions, the complicated questions, the uncomfortable questions. These questions, when asked honestly, when asked from a place of, I want my faith to be mine, my faith is important to me, they don't lead us away from God, they lead us closer. We're not running away, we're diving in. We're diving in deeper to a better place. So these questions are not bad. They're not a problem. They're not something to be afraid of. They're something to be embraced and wrestled with. Questions are a good thing. Deconstruction is a good thing. It leads us to the next place. It leads us deeper and deeper into our faith. It's not destruction. It's taking it apart and looking at it and asking honest questions. It's just asking questions. That's all. So if you find yourself deconstructing, have no fear. You're just asking questions. That's okay. And if you have a friend who is deconstructing, have no fear. They're just asking questions. It's just questions. And that's really all there is to deconstruction. And I believe that will bring us to the conclusion of this video. If you didn't earlier, please subscribe, please like, leave a comment, nice or mean, up to you, doesn't matter. And I hope to see you next time.